Welcome back for the last of our lectures on over-the-counter drugs. We're going to kick off this one by talking about pain relief. When we discuss pain relief, there are two major classes of drugs. These are both over-the-counter and prescription that are used to reduce pain. We've got anesthetics and analgesics. So anesthetics, if you think about general anesthesia, how it just completely blocks all kinds of sensation or consciousness, kind of the broader category. And then we've got analgesics, and these are specifically targeted to pain relief. Over-the-counter drugs are more likely to be analgesics, and the ones that, the categories that we'll discuss include aspirin, acetaminophen or Tylenol, and ibuprofen or Advil or Motrin. So if we're going to talk about pain, it's important to acknowledge that our experience of pain is not an objective measure. Pain is very subjective, and it varies with personality, varies with time of day, gender, age, all kinds of other factors that can be associated with the experience of pain. And a lot of pain is related to the perception of pain, and we know this because about 35% of patients who are taking pain relief medication experience the same effects from a placebo as they do from the drug being studied. So a lot of mind-body connection going on with the experience of pain, something that really can't be discounted. Let's talk first about aspirin with our over-the-counter analgesics. The chemical name for aspirin, acetylsalicylic acid, and it's actually been in use for millennia. It's derived from teas based on the leaves and bark of the willow tree and the poplar tree. So we see the uses of these teas and extracts throughout for long periods of human history. In the 19th century, the active ingredient of salicylic acid was identified, and we start to see the industrial process at work. It was synthesized and mass-produced. In 1898, we see acetylsalicylic acid, so related, but as a synthetic drug created by Bayer. And then in 1915, aspirin, as we know it as a tablet, sold over the counter here in the United States. Aspirin actually turns out to have a wide variety of therapeutic uses. It is an analgesic, so it's going to block mild to moderate pain, and it's found to be especially effective for headache pain and musculoskeletal pain, so some particularly targeted areas. It also reduces fever. It's an antipyretic, and it does this by causing the dilation of peripheral blood vessels, so the blood vessels in your outer limbs, and increased perspiration, both of these allowing the body to kind of bleed off extra heat and reducing fever that way. It's also an anti-inflammatory, so it also reduces swelling and inflammation, and we see it used extensively for arthritis treatment because of its effects on swelling and inflammation. In terms of aspirin consumption, it does have some effects as well as risks that we should be aware of. It does inhibit clotting. So this can cause bleeding problems for surgical patients, but it may help prevent heart attacks and strokes by preventing clots. So if you have an older relative who is advised to stop taking their aspirin before their surgery, they're probably taking the aspirin as a blood thinner to help prevent that heart attack or stroke, but they want that medication to be stopped before surgery so that we don't see the bleeding risk during surgery. We do know that aspirin, because of its effect on bleeding and digestion, can actually induce gastrointestinal bleeding, so that's something that's important that regular aspirin users are monitored for. And then we've got a particular syndrome to be aware of, Ray's syndrome. It's a very rare but serious condition, and almost all cases have occurred in teenagers, people under 20, who took aspirin while they had a viral illness such as the flu or the chickenpox. Because of its severity, the symptoms include coma and death. We have seen a real move away from using aspirin for undiagnosed illnesses just because of the chance that it may be a viral illness. We don't want to be taking aspirin, particularly people under 20, when we have an undiagnosed condition, just to avoid the risk for Ray's syndrome there. So the mechanism of action for aspirin. Aspirin works by inhibiting the creation of prostaglandins. So prostaglandins are local hormones that are released when an injury occurs. So when cell membranes are injured, prostaglandins are released, and aspirin works by mediating that in injured areas through its relationship with neuron stimulation. So aspirin works on prostaglandins, which is how it's able to prevent localized pain. And then in terms of its antipyretic or fever-reducing action, again, we're back to prostaglandins. It also acts on the prostaglandins that are involved in heat regulation. So that's basically how aspirin is able to have this wide range of effects on the body. Moving on to our next category of over-the-counter analgesics, next we'll talk about acetaminophen, widely known here by the trade name of Tylenol. So when we compare acetaminophen to aspirin, what we see is a similar level of effectiveness for its pain relief and fever-reducing effects, but it is less effective as an anti-inflammatory. So if you're experiencing an inflammatory condition, you're more likely to be, a different drug is more likely to be recommended for you. We do have some risks when we talk about acetaminophen use. It can cause serious liver disorders when overused. And actually, if we think back to the Drug Abuse Warning Network, if we look at DAWN data, acetaminophen has far surpassed aspirin as a cause of emergency room visits and death. So definitely a higher risk category here. And for this reason, the FDA has limited the maximum amount available in a single capsule to 650 milligrams for over-the-counter products. So definitely safer to take with a fever of unknown origin, but definitely some risks that may be involved with consistent use of acetaminophen as well. And then our third category, ibuprofen, commonly known under the trade names of Advil or Motrin. So ibuprofen is an NSAID, or a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug. When we talk about its effects as in pain relief and inflammation reduction, so analgesic and anti-inflammatory effects, we do see high levels of effectiveness here, and we see similar biological process in play when we talk about the effects of ibuprofen as with aspirin. Now, there are definitely some potential side effects for ibuprofen use. These may include nausea and stomach pain. If you've heard the advice to take Advil with food, that's basically to alleviate the risk of that side effect. When ibuprofen is taken in large amounts, it can be associated with liver damage, and that does put you at greater risk if you take ibuprofen in combination with alcohol. So if you're familiar with the technique of avoiding hangovers, where a person drinks a large glass of water and takes 2 Advil before they go to sleep, do keep in mind that you're increasing your risk for liver damage whenever you combine ibuprofen with alcohol consumption. Another major category of OTC products includes cold and allergy products. Now, if we talk about the common cold, basically we're talking about a group of viral infections. There are over 100 of these, so if you ever wonder why we don't have more effective medications for colds or prevention of colds, basically it's because there's such a wide range of viruses that cause these similar group of symptoms. And of course, those symptoms: coughing, sneezing, and mucus production. In terms of how the virus gets into the body, it's usually transmitted by entering the body through the nose or eyes. So you'll touch something with your hands, and then you'll touch your face, and the virus will make its way into your body through that method. So good ways to prevent cold transmission, even flu transmission this time of year, are frequent hand washing and to avoid touching your face as well. Both great ways to avoid giving yourself a cold or the flu. So it's important to realize that whenever you purchase an over-the-counter product for your cold or allergy symptoms, that cold symptoms can be treated but not cured. We don't have that in place yet, that cure, again, because of the wide variety of viruses that cause the symptoms. Modern cold remedies are going to break down into 3 different kinds of ingredients. They're often available in combination, so it's important to know what exactly you're consuming. The basic categories include antihistamines, decongestants, and then analgesic antipyretics. So antihistamines, this is going to relieve runny nose and sneezing. And because of those symptoms being common allergy symptoms, we also see antihistamines being used for allergy relief as well. Nasal decongestants, these are going to relieve swollen nasal membranes, and then our third category will relieve aches, those aches that we associate with a cold, aches and body pains, and then also fever reduction. If you're going to be choosing a product, keep in mind that most products contain one or more of a small number of ingredients in different combinations. So if you're going to be purchasing various kinds of cold medication, take a look at that label and make sure that you're not taking, say, multiple antihistamines or multiple nasal decongestants, because these can actually end up having effects that can make you feel worse than taking the ingredients in combination. So if you'd like to be on the safe side, a great idea here is to purchase single ingredient medications and to take only the medications that you need to relieve the symptoms that you have, and keep the control of which medication gets delivered at what time more specific to your particular set of symptoms. By all means, please avoid combining products with similar ingredients, because again, we can see some significant health risks, say with too many antihistamines layered on top of each other. So buyer beware. So that'll wrap us up for the third of our mini lectures here on dietary supplements and OTCs. Just to refresh your memory, we talked about dietary supplements, whether they're considered food or drugs and the importance of that distinction, how they're regulated, and the role of the FDA in regulating these products. And then we went through some specific supplements. Then we changed to over-the-counter medications, which are actually considered drugs, went through the regulatory process that manages those, and then discussed some particular OTCs here in our lecture. That'll finish us up for today, and I'll see you for our next set of lectures.